The ultimate budget minimalist camera setup. That's why you're here. $750, let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking about a camera that I've owned twice in my lifetime. It was so good I had to buy it a second time. Unfortunately, it does not sit on the mantle behind me here. I had to sell it to get into some other gear. But nonetheless, I think that this camera and the lenses that I'm going to suggest that you get with this is the best budget minimalist setup that you can get for around $700 to $800, depending on how much you buy the camera for. And there's several reasons why, and I'd love to get into them with you now. I'm really sorry that I don't have the camera here to hold up, but really, how interesting that. I'll just put some B-roll over it and we'll all have a good time. So, first reason is the IBIS, the internal body image stabilization. So this is actually the same IBIS unit that is found in the GH5. If you know anything about the GH5, it is considered to be, or it has been considered to be, one of the great IBIS systems of modern cameras. So shooting handheld, particularly shooting with something so little, IBIS is really important because we're actually going to be saving some money on lenses later by getting non-image stabilized lenses, but really just relying on that IBIS that we find in the GX85. The G85 is also a good option if you see that cheap. Pick that up. It's just some more features that the GX85 doesn't have, but both cameras are really good if you can get either of them. The next one I want to talk to you about is the natural profile for the Panasonic Lumix cameras. This profile is a really kind of well-known, very useful, very easy to use profile. You know, you've got those kind of internal settings with regards to sharpness and contrast and all that sort of stuff. So there's, you can play around with different settings in there, but essentially there's a host of videos online that really show off some beautiful footage with the natural profile, and it's a profile that I actually used a lot when I had a GH5 for a long time. So you get the natural profile. Another really great thing is that there's someone out there in the deep dark recesses of the internet has figured out how to actually load Cine D and Cine V onto the GX85. So if you've used the GH5 or other Panasonic Lumix cameras before, you know that Cine D is kind of like their flat profile, and you can actually get some really nice stuff out of that Cine D profile. So the next reason is its 4K is crispy. So crispy. All right, so the 4K on this camera is great. For such a little package and such a little unit for such a low price, you're getting 4K 30. Which, everyone wants 4K 60, but that's why we're paying, $400 or $500 for this camera. But the 4K 30 is really great. It has no low pass filter or no anti-aliasing filter on it, so it actually has really crispy looking 4K. You just need to look out when you're filming patterns and stuff like that. You might get some aliasing, but the trade-off is you get really sharp 4K for not very much money. So that's a really good thing. It's got HD 60 frames a second, and the HD is pretty sharp as well. It's not as good as the GH5. I've made a separate video about how good the HD footage out of the GH5 is, but it's pretty good. So you've got 60 frames a second if you want to shoot some slow-mo stuff there as well. Another really great thing that you get at this price point with the GX85 is the Wi-Fi connectivity to your phone, and you actually then get use of the Panasonic Lumix app, which is really useful for monitoring. It doesn't have a flip out screen, so this is really useful if you want to use it to vlog or anything like this. And that app is just really handy. So if you don't really know much about the Panasonic app, check out the video here and you can get into that. So let's just run through a few of the cons. Now there's pretty much two main cons that I want to talk about here. First one is battery life isn't that great. It's a small camera, they're small batteries, that's just the way it is. Live and learn, buy some more batteries, you'll be fine. Second one is that there's no headphone jack, which is a little bit annoying if you're used to using your shotgun microphones on top of your camera. But realistically right now, I'm using a separate audio recorder to get better audio. It's not that big of a deal. Clap at the start, sync it up in post, it takes you 5 seconds. So for me, that wasn't a deal breaker when I had the camera. So those are the reasons why I think that the Panasonic GX85 is the camera for you. If you're looking for a cheap minimalist setup, what you can expect to pay for this is around $400 to $500 on the used market. I've bought and sold my two units for around $400 to $500. Now they are becoming a little bit more scarce. So you're probably going to need to, you probably just can't go out and buy it tomorrow. You need to probably monitor your eBay and your other classifieds to try and get that deal on it. Like I said, if you're not finding it, there probably are some more units of the G85 which is a little bit more expensive, but you know, if there's more units, you might be able to get that for a deal as well, which is really good. So you're paying about $400 or $500 for the camera. And then we're going to get into lenses. So let's talk about the lenses. So I've said 750. All right, so we've got about, you know, 250 to 350 left to spend on lenses. Now I'm going to suggest you buy 2 lenses. Okay, we're not going to worry about zoom lenses. Zoom lenses are a waste of money unless you're talking about the Sigma 18 to 35, which I'm shooting on right now. That is not a waste of money. But the 2 lenses that you're going to actually get is, the first lens is the TTartisans 17mm f1.4. Now this lens comes in at about $150 off eBay, and this lens is really a marvel. Now you're going to be putting it on the micro four thirds sensor, so that's going to take your 17mm and turn it out to about 35mm field of view, which gives you that pretty classic field of view that's really good for, you know, establishing shots of your locations, but also gives you a fairly flattering portrait as well. So first off, I'm going to recommend the 17mm f1.4. There's a review up here if you want to check out that lens from different channels. And the second lens, or there's actually 2 lenses I'm going to recommend for that second lens slot in your setup. So the second lens is the 35mm 1.4 from TTartisan as well. This lens comes in at just under $100, and this lens is sharp as a tack for at f1.4 for your money. So this is a really compelling lens to buy. I've got this lens up on the mantle there behind me. I bought it for the EOSM, and it comes across all the different kind of mirrorless mounts. So that's a really good option. That gives you around a 50mm, that gives you around a 70mm field of view, which kind of, you know, we're going from 35mm to 70mm in full frame equivalent between these 2 lenses. But realistically, you want a semi wide angle that gives you a flattering image, and then you want a nice sharp low f-stop telephoto lens that's actually giving you you know, that kind of that compression that you're looking for. So between these 2 lenses, I think that you actually have a really great setup. And if we run through the numbers now, we've got, let's say best case you find this camera for $400, 400 on that, 150 on the 17mm, and then another $100 on the 35mm, and you've come in at $650. That's pretty good. Now a second lens that you might want to consider is actually the TTartisans 50mm f1.2. Now this lens is going to give you about 100mm in full frame equivalent, which is going to be very kind of telephoto, but this is going to be a very buttery bokeh-licious lens. So there are your 2 options for your second telephoto lens there. The 50mm comes in at about $150 as well, so about $50 more than the 35mm, but it's giving you that kind of 70 versus 100mm look. So depending on what you want to go there, or if you save some money on the body, buy both and live your best life. So guys, that is, in my opinion, the best budget minimalist setup for someone who's wanting to either start out in filmmaking, or someone who isn't actually using all their gear and it's just kind of collecting dust on the shelf, and you're deciding you're going to actually downgrade because you can still get some amazing images out of these modern cheaper cameras. So if this is something you're interested in, please leave comments and stuff like that in the description, asking questions, or if you've owned the camera, let me know what you liked about it the most. So thanks for tuning in today, and I will catch you in the next one.